My name is OOSTHUYSE, and this is, where's this clicker? Bridge over troubled water. All right, so I come from a small farm just outside a small town called Zanine, and it's in Limpopo. Now that you know the integral details of my life, let's get down to business. All right, so we're all aware of the current breakthroughs, the technological breakthroughs that are happening all over the world, but I'd just like to reiterate the development progression from stage 1 to stage now. So this is the first telephone created by Alexander Graham Bell, which was 139 years ago. On the right, we have Google's first telephonic device, recent telephonic device of sorts, because it can do so much more than just call. This is a photo of the first successful airplane created by the Wright brothers 114 years ago. Today we have Uber drones set to take off in 2020. Henry Ford created the concept of the production line. It took about 9 hours of one-man time to develop a car. This was 104 years ago. Now, believe it or not, Tesla spits out a car with all its extravagancies every 10 seconds. The first so-called computer was created by Conrad Zuse in 1938, which was 79 years ago. We now have these things that I'm not actually too sure how to describe. We can't really say when teaching and learning was first discovered, but here's a painting of its earliest practices in the 14th century, which was over 700 years ago. And on the right is a picture of modern day teaching. So in both pictures, we have somebody standing in front of a few people. All of these people have books or notepads. And of course, in each photo, there's somebody catching some Z's. So how are we to define development? Firstly, the obvious element is change, is that it's a progression from one state to another. Secondly, that change is understood to have a permanent or lasting impact, or at least some degree of carry forward. And thirdly, growth often refers to the progression through certain stages. The traditional and formal educational system have mildly approached this development process by bringing in more up-to-date content and sometimes allowing students to make notes on laptops or notepads, moving from paper to screen and from pen to type. And this is their claim to be progressing. But truly, there's been no real disruptive change in the educational system. But let's forget about the rest of the world for 2 seconds and hone in on South Africa and the problems that we face on a day-to-day basis. We live in a country where we are bombarded by inequalities. Crime, poverty, joblessness, and corruption are words that are used in idle, casual conversation to no resolve. I believe that the root of all of these problems comes down to one singular thing: the inability to access knowledge and unlocking a whole world of opportunities. I've characterized these inabilities by 3 main factors. First and foremost, the barrier of financial freedom. So I'd like to take you through the average cost structure of getting a 3-year tertiary education. Adding up all the expenses, you'll get up to 402,000 Rand will be spent at the end of 3 years. Now I want to look at the person who's actually paying for all of this. Since 2014, the average South African nominal income has continuously increased. This is a good thing, right? Wrong. Due to numerous factors, actual spending power and real income has decreased. So after 3 years, the average South African makes just over 407,000 Rand, and comparing it to the cost of a 3-year degree, which amounts to 402,000. So let's be real. What percentage of the lucky few that actually get to go to tertiary education end up getting a decent job, that earns a decent salary to put the next through the 21 to 25-year process? So this word and this one and all of these, at the end of the day, are eventually going to mean nothing. So at the end of the day, it comes down to whether or not you can add value, and that you can actually bring something to the table that will benefit whatever it is you're going for and help them reach their goals. This brings us to our second barrier, the traditional education system. So I just want to start by saying that I have a personal vendetta with life orientation. I really want to know why. Every year from grades 6 to 12, we have to learn about AIDS and apartheid, both of which I understand are relevant, but shouldn't life orientation be orientated towards your whole life, such as learning how to do taxes, managing your personal budget, people skills, applying for jobs, visas, passports, all of those things that I've had to teach myself, using technology, by the way. Cryptocurrencies, blockchain, augmented reality, machine learning, these are all examples of concepts that have become extremely relevant in 2017. But how long will it take for the traditional education system to start teaching these things? How can anyone provide relevant value to the current organizations where the average human doesn't know how to access this knowledge? So this is just the content of the system. What about the actual structure? Is what we're learning the most efficient and beneficial way to learn? So let's take a look at Finland, the leader in world education. They decide on practices and then go through experimental phases on certain techniques and then either see if they're successful or not, then implement it or turf it. So for example, they've brought in this concept where people do their homework, well, people learn at home through webcams and stuff, and then they come to school to actually do their homework. So we've learned from history that people learn best while doing. So in essence, the children learn what to do and come to class to learn how to do it, having a professional guide them through the process, and that way using their time as efficiently as possible. But we're not Finland, and I'm not saying we should turf our whole education system and adopt theirs, but we have a whole bunch of circumstances that we need to work around. Innovation should be a priority regardless of it, and maybe actually because of it. At the moment, students are bombarded by back-to-back 40-minute sessions of trying to take in streams of information, all of which they need to learn and memorize for a 3-hour exam, whereafter they forget everything they've learned and start memorizing sentences for the next one. Or you come from a low-income background and are forced to go to a school where they cram 50 more people in a classroom than recommended, and they struggle to hear the teacher when he or she actually shows up. Or you're busy trying to stop all your notes from getting wet. That reminds me of home. So what so many people don't realize is that this is not the only choice we have. There are so many other things out there, either at very low cost or for free. So we have this very beautiful thing called Khan Academy, where you can learn anything from Java coding to art history for free. Another thing is LinkedIn Learning. That costs about 300 Rand per month, still cheaper than a tertiary education. But let's not forget about all these guys, all of which provide courses that build you up from basic to professional. Nevertheless, online education is still related to stereotypes. People often think that online students are not smart enough to get into traditional education systems and colleges, that they are lazy and they don't get real degrees. And these claims discourage people from taking online courses. So they get stuck in the traditional education system, and that consumes a huge deal of money, nerves, and years of their lives. And this brings us to our third barrier, which is the most important one: perceptions. If we were to overcome these barriers, then the previous two would become null and void. I want to start by looking at it from this point of view. The population percentage of South Africa that has access to the internet has gone to above 60%, 81% of that being through mobile phones. So matter-of-factly, more than 50% of the population has access to a basic education. But with regards to this, the obstacle that immediately comes to mind are data costs. Yes, Vodacom and the rest of them, they all have an oligopoly and they try to extract every last cent we have. But let me show you this. The Western Cape government has successfully implemented 384 Wi-Fi hotspot zones called neo-hotspots in rural, undeveloped and community areas, taxi ranks and townships. They charge as little as 15 Rand for 2 gigabytes of data, and on top of that, they receive 250 megabytes free every day. For that exact same deal, Vodacom charges 179 Rand. A similar thing is happening in Gauteng, where Project OOSTHUYSE has provided over 1,000 free Wi-Fi hotspots to the Gauteng region. They've also paired up with Facebook to supply Wi-Fi areas to Limpopo and Mpumalanga. The tools are there. The biggest challenge is getting the citizens of South Africa to use them efficiently, to show people that there is another way, that there is a better way. In the age of information and the accessibility to it, ignorance is a choice. Learning drives economic growth, it fuels innovation and creates jobs. It equips countries and people with the skills to escape poverty and to build a shared prosperity. It enables people to build to more secure livelihoods, and build better health and participate in political processes that affect their lives. This new stage of life has the inherent ability to overcome current infrastructure inefficiencies, and bridge the gap between the educated and the uneducated, the haves and the have-nots, and ultimately the wealth gap in South Africa. It's our job as marketers, as thinkers, as dreamers, as individuals to stop waiting for authorities and actually do something about this. To change perceptions, to help people to see, not with their eyes, but with understanding and acceptance. We have the tools as marketers at our disposal to reach a mass audience, not to sell a product or to make money, but to sell a possibility and to make a change.